Inside the castle, Will stood before the throne and concluded his subjugation report. The king, seated on the throne, addressed him with a smile. Well, once again, he has protected their nation from the magic beasts. Thanks to him, they can all welcome the new year in peace. The king then leaned back with a sigh, saying he has only got 1 year left until retirement. He's grateful as finally he'll be able to take a breather. He calls him hero of the Holy Sword as he thanks him. Magic beasts, monsters that have spread across the continent, violently mutated from unknown causes. When a beast transforms into a magic beast, its body enlarges and it becomes ferocious. Normal weapons can't kill them and their skin becomes unnaturally tough. People could do nothing but run and hide until the humans successfully struck them down using holy weapons forged from arrows. From that moment on, nations began to form around the wielders of these sacred arms. The kingdom of Exiled is protected by two such weapons, the holy swords and the holy lance-banner. Later that evening, the king hosted a dinner banquet in Well's honor, telling him tonight's banquet is for him. He warmly asked him to drink to his heart's content. Well bowed gratefully while reflecting silently. 19 years ago, his ordinary life was turned upside down the moment he pulled out the holy sword Elstring. Seated at the royal table with him are Lord Vat, King of Cranlard, Felasol, Queen of the Crescent Kingdom, Marisol, the first princess and a saintess, and Alisol, the second princess. Well thanks the king respectfully, addressing him as his majesty. But Lord Vat laughs and waves it off. He asks him not to call him that. He sees him as a younger brother, so just call him Big Brother. Thaliesel chuckles while scolding him gently. She says he had too much to drink. Lord Vet poor Well is at a loss. Still, she also wants him to call her big sister too. Marisol chimes, telling Well he was amazing in yesterday's battle. Ely eagerly added she wants to hear about it too. As well, he thought to himself, life is unpredictable. Who would have thought he would be here celebrating the new year with royalty? They invite him every year. Despite everything, he still wasn't used to it. After all, he came from a commoner background. A single old man, 34. No girlfriend. No surviving family. It still feels like a dream, he thought. Just then, Lord Vet raised his glass, saying, by the way, there's good news. At today's hero selection ceremony, they finally found someone, a new Holy Lance hero, to succeed him. Well asks, really? So, someone finally managed to pull out the Holy Lance. Ali says they were there and it was incredible. She asks Marisol, who agrees, saying even the muscular knights of the Order couldn't make it budge. The Holy Lance, Vanil, who would have thought such a young boy could pull it out, well, tells them a sacred weapon doesn't accept strength alone. It won't choose someone unless they are worthy. Alisal asks what he means, and Well explains by asking if she knows what mana is. All living things, humans, animals, fishes, even trees, contain a life force called mana. Only by channeling mana through a sacred weapon can it cut through magic beasts, but using it consumes a lot of mana. That's why in this kingdom they select candidates based on whether they can pull out sacred weapon. Sadly, mana isn't visible to the eye. Marisol says she understands the hero needs more than just strength. He needs mana's blessing. Well replies precisely. Their mother, the queen, tells them those who can wield mana are very rare. Lord Vet out, which is why they must show their gratitude to heroes, saints, and mages alike. Now then, about his retirement rewards, his two precious daughters, which one would he like to marry? Hearing this, Well spits out his drink. He disagrees, telling Lord Vet he's not worthy of that. Lord Vet tells him he's not getting any younger. He needs a partner to keep up appearances, so don't be ridiculous. His predecessor, Marissa, was also a commoner, yet she married into royalty his brother. Well responds, those two fell in love naturally. Lord Vat replies, citizens dream of marrying into royalty after becoming a hero. Well tries to speak when Lord Vat interrupts, asking if they're really doing this again. Just give him a proper answer already. Well thinks many dream of becoming heroes. Lavish rewards, land and status. Marriage to noble beauties in exchange for rescuing lives. For fighting magic beasts, they're promised everything imaginable but what he wants. Well then calls Lord Vet big brother, saying to him both of them are like nieces. That's all for retirement. Just a modest pension will suffice. And if he can train the new hero into a worthy successor, he will be content. Hearing his answer, Lord Vet sighed deeply, saying he's always so serious. Well apologizes when Marasol offers him a drink. Lord Vet looks at him thinking that's why he really wanted Well and his family. If he ever changed his mind, just let him know. Afterward, in the royal castle guest room, Well jumps on his bed, saying he drank way too much. Just then, a voice says that's rare. She has never seen Well this drunk. He looks at his sword and calls Elsie. Elsie tells him Lord Vic gets way too pushy after drinking, but he means well though. She's a spirit-like entity dwelling within the holy weapon. She was once human, apparently, but somehow ended up like this. It's a mess. She says, rude, she still have a woman's heart. He tells her he can only hear her voice, so he's fine either way. When she snaps, telling him to shut it, he agrees. He then giggles when she asks what. He says she has fought by his side for 19 years and he has never seen her face. She replies saying, what a shame, she knows every little thought in that head of his. He groans, asking if she could stop reading his mind without asking first. Well then asks if she thinks the next hero can hear her. She tells him that so far no one but Will has ever heard her voice. At least he has a successor now, so they should set the bride talk aside, to which he agrees. She then says between beast hunting and rookie training this year is going to be packed. Says only 1 year left as he'll be counting on her. She tells him she'll be counting on him too. Afterward he hears a scream as he wakes up instantly to find himself locked up at the royal castle square on the pedestal of slumber. All the citizens are gathered as well as being taken to the slumber as a hostage. As he walks, citizens throw stones at him, shouting that he's been acting like a damn fool since the year began. The hero getting drunk and assaulting the saint. That's low. One yells. They start calling him names when Will thinks what's going on. Assault. He attacked Marcial. He thinks he was asleep in his cell just a moment ago. He seriously has no clue what's happening. Just then he looks up and sees a man holding a sword. The man says that's right. He thinks he's innocent. So the mighty holy sword did something stupid. Elsie says this is a joke. A total farce. Well wonders who is he when Elsie answers telling him that's the vice captain of the knights, the one who always hated him. Will remembers him. As Well stands there. The man walks up to him grinning. He says now then allow him to tell him his punishment. He tells Well he's exiled from the kingdom. Well gets shocked when Elsie exclaims what. Well protests saying that's ridiculous. His Majesty would never allow this. Elsie urges to show them proof. Well did that when the man laughs as he calls him a dumb bass while showing him a letter. He says it's an imperial order from His Majesty himself. Well stares at the letter, stunned. The man sneers, saying he knew her from the start. The truth finally comes out. Shameless fraud who clung to the hero title for far too long. He's a disgrace. In the end, he's just a commoner who happened to pull out the holy sword. How dare he lay a hand on the beautiful and noble Lady Marcil? He's the real beast here. Elsie calls him trash, asking if this is how they treat the hero who served the kingdom for 19 years. She turns to Will, asking why won't he say anything back. He has so many allies who would support him. Suddenly the citizens shout at him, telling him to get out. The man then hands the holy sword back to Will, saying he knows what comes next. Well, while being broken, grabs the sword and places it back into the stone. As he does, Elsie quietly apologizes, saying she couldn't protect him. Will replies, what is she saying? Thanks to her, he became a hero. He, the one who should apologize for being so pathetic. Thanks her for everything, and then turns, walking away, saying goodbye. Later inside the carriage, the man pushes Will out and tells him to go wherever he likes while calling him a criminal. They ride off, leaving Will behind. Well looks at them, thinking his role as a hero is over now. He sits there alone, thinking that Elsie would have scolded him for catching a cold, saying, "Who will protect the country if the hero gets sick?" He reflects, saying he doesn't have the holy sword anymore. He's not a hero anymore. He remembers the chance and everything that came with that title, wondering what now. Just then, Elsie sighs, saying honestly he's hopeless without her, while gets startled as he looks at the dagger. "Elsie," he says. He picks up the dagger, asking why is she here, where is the holy sword? She tells him it turns out she can possess this dagger too. She scowls, saying she was such an idiot staying loyal to that country. After all his dedication, they threw him away. They're worse than the beasts, worse than ogres. He completely fell into their trap. She continues, asking if they even know how many years she spent training him. She was trying to work from the inside, and Well interrupts her as he apologizes. She waves him off, telling him boys shouldn't sweat the details. She then asks why didn't he fight back or escape back there. He had no reason to take it lying down. This mark of a criminal is just, he replies, if he had done that he would have tainted the image of the hero he always looked up to. She calls him a dummy as he starts crying. She asks what's with the tears when he says it's just that everything hit him all at once. She sighs, saying seriously he's such an idiot. At night, Elsie and he wandered until morning. The next day they found the small village that gave them food and water. 1 week since being exiled, a soldier apologizes to him, saying they don't have anything for sale. At another village, a guard accuses him of treason and demands he leave. After being turned down everywhere, Elsie gets angry, saying this is infuriating. Why is his wanted poster spreading so fast? Well says thanks to that he's being denied entry everywhere. She replies, so he can't live in any human kingdom now. Maybe, he says. But if they keep looking, then someone somewhere might accept him. Elsie retorts, and just when would that be? She then says she has got an idea. What if they head to the demon territory? He blinks, asking demon territory. She explains to the west of Kernard there ain't no human nations. Latin says that's where demons and non-humans live. Well says no human nations, as that place must be seriously hellish to live in, and without the holy sword he just then Elsie cuts him off, telling him he can do it. She guarantee it. Feeling motivated, Will says if Elsie says so then he's in. She grins, telling him that's the spirit. He chuckles, saying it's not like they have got anywhere else to go. A few weeks later, deep in a forest, Will is crawling on the ground, calling out Elsie he's dying. He's seriously dying. This is IT for him. Elsie says this much won't kill him. She has done a lot of research after all. Will asks what is she saying, and then faints. Later someone pokes his face with a stick. He slowly opens his eyes, thinking who is that? Did he pass out? A little girl is poking his head with a stick. He looks at her and tries to ask for water. The little girl smiles at him when Elsie says, well, he's awake. Will tries to speak but can't. Elsie says he can't even talk right now. Don't worry, she will speak for him. She looks at the little girl, telling him blue hair, crimson eyes, crimson translucent horns, almost like an angel. Will groans, asking her to stop reading his thoughts. He then thinks it's no good. He still can't speak properly, and no one else can hear Elsie but him. He reaches out to the girl, trying to ask for help when she says okay. Just then, a woman appears, calling out Delilah, asking what is she doing. Delilah turns and calls her mommy, telling her Mr. said he wants to eat Miss Wormy. Delilah's mother looks at Will in confusion, saying Mr. She asks. Elsie mutters, telling him second, angel-sided. Afterwards, Will is lying on the woman's lap as she gives him water to drink. She then tells Delilah honestly it's water, not bugs. Delilah giggles when Elsie tells Will he's lucky they found him in time. She adds the horns, the strange hair, and eye color, they're probably demons. The woman then asks Will if he can drink a little more. Will looks at her, wondering if he's dead and if this is heaven. Elsie urges him to answer her when gets startled and quickly pulls back, apologizing for the trouble. He thanks them and introduces himself. Elsie tells him to pull himself together when Will explains that he collapsed while searching for the demon territory and swears he's not dangerous. He wonders if they'll even believe him, wondering if his wanted poster reached this far already. Just then, the woman smiles at him, telling him he's fine. Will looks at her in surprise as she continues telling him this little one is shy with strangers, but she warmed up to him right away. Delilah is sitting peacefully on his lap as Will gently hugs her. Suddenly, he apologizes again when Elsie sighs, telling him he's way too relaxed. Delilah then tells her mother Mr. said he's hungry. The woman then tells Will their house is nearby. Would he like to rest there? Will asks really when she nods. She then picks up Delilah and says, "Where are her manners? The humans call their kind Oni folks." Delilah introduces herself and the lady introduces herself as Natalia. Bit later, Natalia thanks Will for waiting and tells him this is the Oni folk village, their people's home. She's carrying Will when he in embarrassment says this is weird. She responds telling him he just collapsed not too long ago. Will asks how can she even lift him when she tells him called Kyoku the Mana technique passed down through the Oni bloodline. Elsie explains by focusing Mana into specific parts of the body they can boost physical abilities. Will tells her Oni folks are amazing. As they walk into the town, Natalia tells him they rarely get any visitors. They then enter a large house where Natalia gives him a clean set of clothes to wear. After changing into the Will comes outside. Delilah looks at him saying he matches Terojin. Natalia then opens the door and they all walk inside. Inside the room, a beautiful lady is sitting there. She greets Will, saying it's been years since they had a human visitor. She introduces herself as Eliza, the village chief and also Natalia's mother-in-law. Will looks at her in surprise, thinking she looks way too young for that. Eliza smiles and says people often mistake her for Natalia's older sister. Will then wonders, come to think of it, he hasn't seen any older folks around. Eliza then asks him, so what happened? He collapsed out there. That's troubling. Will replies, telling her it's a long story. Suddenly, they hear a loud roar that startles everyone. Will says that roar, don't tell him, that's when Elsie tells him that's what he think. Just then, a villager rushes into the room telling the chief they have a problem. A magic beast has appeared. The men are holding it back with Kaku for now, but it's huge. They don't know how long they can last. He then starts crying as he delivers a message from his father. The chief looks surprised when the boy says they will try to hold it off, but this one might require only Dash to drive it away. He might not be able to get rid of it. If that happens, he said to leave the aftermath to her. That's all he said. Immediately, the village chief hurries outside, telling Natalia to take Lilith and their guests to the back. She orders everyone else to reinforce the barrier as they agree. Natalia then turns to Will, telling him they need to go now, but Will stops her. He tells her to wait, asking if Oni folk have a way to kill a magic beast. What is this on Dash thing? Italia stays silent for a bit and then explains, even among demons, no one has ever truly slain a magic beast, but the Oni folk have one secret move that can be used only once in a lifetime. It's a hidden technique passed only to Oni men. On Dash, break their horn with Kairyoku, pour all their mana into the shattered horn and forge a crimson blade sharp enough to wound a magic beast, but the user's life force burns out in an instant. She then lowers her voice, telling him it's a heroic act passed from father to son, generation to generation. Elsie speaks up, telling Will he does realize this is a suicide mission. Hearing that, Will rushes outside, saying like hell he would let that happen. Natalia calls after him, but suddenly remembers her husband leaving in the same way. She falls to her knees, haunted by the memory. As Will runs. Elsie pleads, asking if he doesn't understand. He doesn't have the holy sword Elsrinning anymore. Will says he knows, and he also knows he needs a weapon forged with magic or no sword. No magic be slain. Sacred weapons change shape with mana thanks to the magic ore in the blades, but they still don't know how they're made. Will thinks without a sacred weapon, he's just a powerless old man. He remembers Lilith and Natalia and then grips his dagger tightly. He charges towards the beast and then blocks the beast's attack, saying he still has something to do. Large explosion occurs when the only men shout at him to get back. Will responds, IT doesn't matter, he will deal with IT. He then turns to Elsie asking its neck is the weak spot, right? Elsie confirms asking, but how is he going to take it down? That thing's fully grown. Will replies he will stab it again and again until it stops moving. He draws his dagger when Elsie groans, saying he seriously don't get IT. Will leaps at the beast when Natalia watches, asking him don't. In that moment, she sees a vision of her husband being killed by the same kind of beast as she calls out to Will again. The beast attacks, biting Will's arm. Will grits his teeth and with the dagger begins stabbing the beast over and over. Finally, the magic beast falls dead as Will too collapses to the ground. He gasps, saying he's alive. While lying down, he realizes that magic beasts weren't supposed to be scratched without a sacred weapon. So how? Elsie says she told him 1,000 times. Does he even know how many years she spent training him? Will replies saying it really feels like a dream when Elsie says his mana is just insane. That blade wasn't even made of magic, or he flooded that tiny dagger with so much mana and compressed it into the blade. It only lasted a second, but in that moment it became a pseudo-sacred weapon. In short, he's more than strong enough. He killed a magic beast with his own strength. All the armed men gather around him as they all start cheering for him. Suddenly within the crowd, Natalia calls out to him while looks at her and apologizes for all the trouble. Elsie warns him to grit his teeth. Will looks confused until Natalia slaps him hard across the face. She yells at him saying, "Who fights a magic beast alone with a dagger that tiny? What does he think his life is even worth?" Everyone falls silent, startled by her outburst. Afterwards, she demands him to let her see that wound. Will tries to brush it off, saying it's just a scratch when she insists, telling him she'll heal it. He says, "Don't worry, it won't take long." When she grabs his hand and heals his wound instantly, Elsie gets shocked, saying that healed in an instant. Will thinks that's even faster than Lady Marcial's healing magic. He asks Natalia if that's also an Onifolk technique. He looks at Natalia and sees her crying as he gets surprised. He asks her to wait. Why is she crying? While sobbing, she says she's just so glad that he's alive. Just as Will reaches out to comfort her, Delilah slaps him out of the blue, telling him he made Mama cry. Delilah then says he has to hug them when gets stunned. She insists on hugging them as he looks to Elsie for help. Elsie sighs, telling him he's hopeless. Natalia then smiles gently as she thanks Delilah for worrying about her. Delilah nods with a bright smile. She then turns to Will when Natalia says she apologized if they caused him any offense. Will replies, "Not at all. He's the one who made her cry." Natalia then reaches out and holds his hand, saying she's truly thankful to him for saving Delilah and her mother-in-law. He protected the Oni folks too, so thanks a lot. Will gently squeezes her hand in return, saying he's just glad he was able to protect them. After he took down the magic beast that attacked the village, Will explained everything to Eliza and the others. After hearing his story, Eliza tells him they don't judge people by those brands here. More importantly, he should stand tall. To the Only Folk, he's the hero who saved them from the magic beast. With no place left in the human lands, Will began staying at the chief's home with Natalia and Delilah, taking up work hunting magic beasts around the world. Later during lunch, Will takes a bite and says, "This is delicious." Elsie tells Natalia she's amazing at cooking. Natalia beams with joy, saying she's glad it suits his taste. After the meal, Will leaves to go hunting. As he was preparing, an Oni man approaches him, saying he's at it again. He's Grain, the Oni folks' blacksmith. He calls out to Will, telling him he finally managed to forge something decent. Grain asks if he'd like to try it out. He handed Will a sword. As Will's eyes widened, he looks at it, saying, "Holy sword." Elsie when Gree chuckles, telling him it's a replica. Elsie moved from the dagger into the sword and exclaiming, "That's awesome. She can even possess this one." Will smiles, saying this will make hunting so much easier. Gree nods, telling him there are two legendary weapons from the human will. He couldn't resist forging one to see what they'd look like. Well thanks him and offers to pay, but Grain declines, saying if he hadn't shown up when he did, he would have used Oni Dash while walking off. Later, while fighting a beast, the sword breaks, but Gra has already made several more for him. That night, inside a restaurant, the villagers are gathered to celebrate Will's success. Everyone cheers and raises their glasses in his honor. Elsie nudged him, asking him to look at that. He's being treated like family. Will asks quietly if this is really okay. They've been so kind to him, but all he has done is what he always does, hunt beasts. Elsie scowled, saying he really doesn't get it. Just then, Darukin, the only folk butcher, walks in. He tells Will he has got to try the finest meat tonight. Will replies he kind of feels bad when Darukin blinks, asking bad why. He continues asking Will if he has any idea. He takes down the beast and doesn't even claim the magic stones. Thanks to him, this village is thriving. Well, while looking shocked, asks magic stones. They usually only get those from big beasts. Exactly. Darukin says, telling him they're incredibly rare. Will asks, what do they even use magic stones for? Darukin looks baffled, saying he doesn't know. Will shakes his head, telling him he only ever saw them being used in things like the Holy Sword and the Holy Lance. No one in Krenlard knew how to work with them. Darukin disagrees, telling him magic stones are worth as much as gold coins, some even more. Will thought for a moment what Elsie admits that she didn't know that either. Will mutters he guessed the knights handled all that stuff outside the beast hunts. Elsie frowns, saying so heroes were making the country rich without even knowing it. Darukin puts a hand on Will's shoulder, saying the way he sees it he deserves far more than what he has ever gotten. Will shrugs, telling him not really. Darukin smiles, saying everyone appreciates him. Besides, he was a hero. Will nods quietly when Darukin adds if that's how the human world treated him, then maybe the human world was wrong. Elsie agreed, saying exactly, he gets it. Darukin laughs, saying now come on, enjoy himself. Try some of the best meat they have. Elsie's eye was full at times like these. She really misses having a real body. A few days later, inside his room, Natalia and Delilah walks in. Delilah tells him, here's some tea, when thanks to Delilah. Natalia turns to her saying, all right, it's bedtime, so let's go, but Delilah hugs Will tightly, telling her she's not sleepy. Natalia smiles awkwardly as she apologizes, saying she's gotten so attached to him. Afterwards, she asks Will, lately, what has he been researching, staying up so late at night? Will tells her everyone in the village has been so good to him, so he just wants to repay the favor. Italia asks if he hasn't done enough already when he says he just realized something. The Oni folk can control mana in much better ways than humans. If they can harness that properly, then maybe they can stop people from dying after using Oni Dash. Natalie gets surprised and asks why he's going so far for them. He tells her that they were the ones who helped him first. Natalia gets emotional and tells him she'll whip up a late-night snack while Elsie comments, not bad. Afterwards, Natalia brings them food and they spend time together. One day, Elsie asks Will, why doesn't he just marry Natalia? Hearing this, Will gets surprised when Elsie tells him she can hear his thoughts. Besides, Natalia doesn't seem to dislike the idea either. She's a wonderful woman. She makes those royal princesses from their kingdom look like amateurs. Will says he doesn't know. Sure, he managed as a hero, but when it comes to things like that, he's hopeless. That's why he got betrayed. At the end of the day, he's just some guy with a sword. He says that while feeling disappointed in himself. Just then, Elsie tells him he's doing just fine, even without the sword, and she's with him because of who he is, not because he was a hero. Will apologizes, saying he's still not over it yet. He then asks why His Majesty gave that order. He told him he was family and that he could trust him. Elsie says about that, actually, there's something she has been keeping from him. She explains that he was completely set up by the two princesses. She reminds him of the New Year's banquet when Marcel poured him a drink. She slipped sleeping drugs into it. Then while he was knocked out, they snuck into his room and staged an assault. The day before his exile, Alistair told Marisol perfect success. Now Uncle Well is a criminal who disrespected the first princess. No proof, no witnesses, and no one can expose the truth. Plus, he thinks